Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. I am so delighted to have you all join us tonight for CYAM's Road to Cincy 2022 General Conference Series. Tonight's stop, we will be talking about Robert's Rules of Order. We will hear from Ms. Martinique Mix, who serves as the president of the Richard Allen Young Adult Council of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Martinique has attended numerous general conferences as she is the granddaughter of a bishop, and I am certain that she will give us some pointers as young adults to remember and make note of as we are on our road to General Conference 2022. Tonight's series will be one of the most important components as we prepare for our General Conference. So please make sure you take notes and write down questions. If you have questions, please email us at cmecym@gmail. That is cmecym@gmail.com. And someone will get back to you. I hope you all enjoy what we have in store for you all tonight. And again, make sure you keep the lookout for our Road to Cincy tour. We may be coming to a place near you soon.
Greetings. I first want to thank your president and executive board for the invitation. So we know this summer we have General Conference, and we wanted to just give you a little bit of information. It might be introduction to some. Robert's Rules of Order 101. How to make motions, what is a motion, what are just some key terminology, some basic things that you can take to know what to do when you get into the business sessions. So the first thing is we've divided today's lesson into 4 parts. Part 1, intro, keywords. Part 2, basic principles, general procedures. Part 3, general rules of debate. And part 4, types of motion. The goal, to learn the basic terminology and the fundamentals of Robert's Rules of Order to empower young adults for General Conference and beyond. Why? Because knowledge is power. Parliamentary procedure is a set of rules for conducting orderly meetings that accomplish goals fairly. Benefits of parliamentary procedures include the following: justice and courtesy for all, the maintenance of order, consideration of one item at a time, all sides get heard, ability for each member to provide input, majority rule, protection of the rights of all members, including the minority. So some of the key words that you'll be hearing today are motion, second, amendment, quorum, presiding officer. And some helpful terminology that you'll also be hearing throughout are adopted, filed, accepted, approved, as corrected, placed on file, for audit, or lost. So some of the definitions for the keywords that we just mentioned are: motion, a formal proposal made to bring a subject before an assembly for its consideration and action. And motion is probably one of the most important words you'll learn today. Second, a statement by a member who agrees that the motion made by another member be considered. Quorum, the minimum number of members who must be present in order to conduct business. That's why it's always important to understand the amount of people or the amount of delegates in the room so you know the quorum amount, which is usually 50% plus 1. Amendment. Before the vote is taken on a motion, it may be amended by striking out words, inserting or adding words, striking out words and inserting other words in their place, or substituting one paragraph or resolution for another. And last, presiding officer / chair, the individual who facilitates the meeting, usually the president. We know for General Conference that usually is a bishop, but it's important to know which person is actually presiding over the session or that part of the session, because you can have multiple chairs within one session. So it's very important that you know who's actually the chair. Helpful terminology. And so the words we just mentioned are in red, but this sort of gives you why they're helpful terminology. Recommendations, bylaws, rules, resolutions, budgets, and audits are adopted. Reports are filed. Resignations are accepted, and bills and minutes are approved. If corrections are made to the minutes are then approved as corrected, which means that if someone notices that a name is misspelled, then the minutes are approved as corrected because they've made a correction to those minutes. Treasurer's statement is neither approved nor adopted, but questions are answered regarding any item as reported. It is placed on file for audit as stipulated in the bylaws. So if there is a treasury report, you would not make a motion to approve nor adopt, but you would make a motion that the file be placed on audit or file be placed pending audit. Motions are recorded as adopted or lost. So since we just learned some terminology and we learned keywords, now we kind of put those into the principles. So we have some basic principles, which is a roadmap of like 11 principles we think that would be helpful for you to know. The first one, all members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. 2, no one person can speak until recognized by the chair. 3, personal remarks, debates are out of order. 4, only one question at a time may be considered, and only one person may have the floor at one time. 5, members have the right to know the immediately pending question and have to restate it before a vote is taken. 6, full and free discussion of every main motion is a basic right. 7, a quorum is to be presented at business to be conducted. So if you get to a session and you know 100% of the attendees are not there, you must make sure that there's at least a quorum present. Again, that's why it's important to know how many people are considered delegates. 8, a majority decides a question except when basic rights of members are involved or a rule provides otherwise. 9, 2/3 of a vote is required for any motion that deprives a member of the right in any way, e.g., cutting off debate. 10, silence gives consent. Those who do not vote allow decisions to be made by those who do vote. And 11, the chair should always remain impartial. Which brings us to the next part, the role of the presiding officer. To remain impartial during the debate, the presiding officer must relinquish the chair in order to debate the merits of a motion and may not chair the meeting until after a vote has been taken on the motion has been disposed of. To vote only to create a tie break or 2/3 for a matter requiring a 2/3 vote. The exception is the presiding officer may vote on any vote by ballot. So the presiding officer can vote, but depending on the matter may be a tiebreaker. To introduce business in proper order per the agenda, to recognize speakers, to determine if a motion is in order, to keep discussion germane to the pending motion, to maintain order, and to put motions to a vote and to announce results. General rules of debate. So taking all of that we've learned, here's some more rules that basically are going to be general to or germane to any sort of debate or any meeting that you would be in business-wise. No member may speak until recognized by the chair. It's why it's important to know who the chair is. All discussion must be relevant to the immediately pending question. No member can speak more than twice to each debatable motion. The second time takes place after everyone wishing to debate the motion has had an opportunity to speak once. So be very aware when someone is debating a motion, how many times they have spoken, and to make sure that they are not speaking consistently before other people are able to. No one can speak more than 10 minutes are decided by the members. All remarks must be addressed to the chair. No cross debate is permitted. It is not permissible to speak against one's own motion. Debate must address issues, not personalities. No one is permitted to make personal attacks or question the motives of other speakers. Basically, be kind and make sure that you stay on task. The presiding officer must relinquish the chair in order to participate in debate and cannot reassume the chair until the pending main question is disposed of. Just like we discussed in their responsibilities, the chair must step aside in order to debate motions or even to make a motion. When possible, the chair should let the floor alternate between those speaking in support and those speaking in opposition of the motion. So if you are wanting to speak on a motion and you feel like more people are speaking for it, but you oppose it, the chair should still allow you to speak. Rules of debate can be changed by a 2/3 vote or general consent without objection. If in the time of the meeting there needs to be changes to the rules and how things are done, then a 2/3 vote, or if more people are for it than not, then they can still be changed in the meeting. Now we're talking about procedure for handling a main motion. So the first thing is obtaining and assessing the floor. A member raises their hand when no one else has the floor. Make sure you understand if someone is talking or if someone has a motion, make sure you understand exactly what is happening in the meeting. Once you understand that, the chair will recognize that member by name. Usually it's by district, but sometimes it is by name. Now, how the motion is brought before the assembly. So the member makes the motion. It's best to say, I move that R2. I know a lot of our members are so used to saying, I so move, but it's better to say, I move that, and then the motion. So once you actually make the motion, now we go into another keyword, second. Another member will second that motion, and they'll say, I second the motion, I second it, or second. So sometimes what you'll find is that someone will come up to you and say, hey, I'm going to make a motion. Can you second it? And all you have to do is be ready to get to a mic and say, I second the motion, or I second it. Very simple. And the chair states the motion. So make sure you speak clearly when you make that motion. And they'll say, it's been moved and second that. Are you ready for the question? And so once we get to that, this is when we're considering the motion. So the first thing, members can debate the motion. So once the chair asks for the question, this is when we start to have the actual debate for the motion. When we talk about the rules for the debate, this is when that comes into play. 2, before speaking in debate, members obtain the floor. So you still have to be recognized by the chair to speak. So don't speak out of turn. Make sure the chair recognizes you to speak. 3, the maker of the motion has first right to the floor if they claim it properly. So if you make a motion and you want to speak on it, make sure that you stay at the mic and that you make sure that the chair recognizes you to do so. 4, debate must be confined to the merits of the motion. And so sometimes we can get sidetracked with other kind of things that we're talking about, conversation within that part, but we want to stay on task and talk about the actual motion that is on the floor. 5, debate can be closed by order of the assembly, 2/3 vote, or by the chair if no one seeks the floor for further debate. So if you do want to speak on that motion, make sure that you get to a mic, make sure that the chair can see you or even hear you, or you have other people around you to make the chair aware that you do want to discuss. If not, then the debate will be closed, and that's when we will actually move on to voting. So the chair puts the motion to a vote. First, the chair asks, are you ready for the question? And this when we have a debate. If no one raises to claim the floor, then we will proceed without debate to the vote. Okay, the second thing, the chair says, the question is on the adoption of the motion that, and it'll go as many as. Okay, so the voting process is, are you in favor? The chair will say, are you in favor? Pause. They will respond. And then they will also say, if you oppose, you'll say nay. And for those that are abstaining the vote, you will say aye. The chair announces the results of the vote, and it will go one of 2 ways. If the ayes have it, which means the motion carries, more people voted for the motion than not. And are 2, the nays have it, which means that more people voted against the motion and the motion has failed. And those who abstained, it'll be recorded that people did abstain from voting, but it won't really matter to the vote either way. So now that we have some information, we have what happens when we vote, we have, what a motion is, and we have some basic terminology to accomplish what you want to do in the meeting. So of course, back to our basic main motion. If you want to propose a new idea or action to the group, after recognition, you want to make sure you make a motion. And with that, you would say, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, I move that, right? And so even with this, in this section, we're going to talk about the times when you have to be recognized by the chair and when you don't have to be recognized. For a main motion, you must be recognized by the chair to make a motion. And then let's say that you are listening to a motion and you're like, okay, something is missing. There's some words that should be changed. Something should be subtracted. Something should be added. There should be maybe a resolution that kind of goes with this motion because some action needs to come out of this motion. Well, then you would amend a motion. And so then you might say something like, and this is also when you need to be recognized by the chair before you speak. Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I move that the motion be amended by. Maybe you add a word, maybe you subtract. And so there's different ways of amending, but you have to be recognized. Okay, and then there's also might be a time when you're listening to a proposal or an idea and you're thinking, okay, but I think that this might have some implications or this might actually need to be studied by a certain committee. For instance, if you're listening to a proposal and it has financial implications, you might want to refer to a committee, to the finance committee. And so for this, you also need recognition from the chair. So you get recognized and say, I move that this question or this proposal be referred to a committee. And you can either say a committee made up of certain members, or you can name a committee that this would be named to. Postpone definitively. You want the membership to have more time to consider the question under discussion. You want to postpone to a definitive time or date when it can come up for further consideration. So let's say, and of course, you also need to be recognized by the chair. So for instance, you might say, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I would move to postpone the question until. And this will allow members of the assembly to really be able to think about, okay, do we like this proposal? Is this something that we really want to do? Or maybe they just maybe have to do some more research on something that has happened in the past. Whatever it is, this is basically you're allowing for the assembly to have more time to discuss it and then bring it up at a later date. Permission to withdraw a motion. So earlier we talked about what if you have a motion and that you don't like. So instead of talking against the motion that you actually created, what you might do is after recognition, say, Madam President or Mr. Chair, I ask permission to withdraw my motion. And this is so that not only don't have to talk against your motion, but this is also to help the fact that maybe within a discussion, someone decides, okay, well, I have a better idea for a motion. So, and because you can't have more than one motion at a time, it's best for the person who makes the motion to withdraw it, allowing someone else to make a better motion or allowing for business to continue if they feel that motion is not pertinent to the conversation anymore. Call for orders of the day. So at the beginning of the meeting, the agenda is adopted. And let's say there's a time when the chairperson is not following the approved agenda, then you might call for orders of the day. So to basically alert the chairperson that they are no longer following the agenda. And so you can actually ask for this without recognition. So they don't even have to recognize you for you to actually call for orders of the day. Next, suspending the rules. The agenda has been approved at the beginning of the meeting, and the meeting is proceeding, and it's becoming clear that there's a certain item agenda that is not going to come up in a certain amount of time, or that you need, because of time, need to move the agenda forward and you can come back to it later. For instance, elections. This usually happens with elections when you're running behind on business and you know that you need to do the election before a certain time, because you know that you have inductions and different ceremonies that have to come after the election. So somebody might, after recognition, move to suspend the rules, and then you might move the election up to the morning. And then once the election is over, you'll go back to business and where you were in the agenda before. Point of personal privilege. The noise outside the meeting has become so great that you are having trouble hearing. And so this, again, this can be done without recognition. You'll say point of privilege, and then the chair will say, state your point. You might say, there's too much noise, I can't hear. Or too many people are speaking on the matter more than one time without allowing others to speak. And so this is just basically a very quick point that you can have through the meeting. And a lot of times what we see is that people use this to sort of make accommodations for maybe the chair that maybe is about to leave, or accommodations for someone doing something good, usually with the point of personal privilege. Next thing is the committee of the whole. So you're going to propose a question that is likely to be controversial, and you feel that some of the members will try to kill it by various maneuvers. Also, you might want to keep out visitors and press. And so this is after recognition. You might say, Madam Chair, I move that we go into committee of the whole, which means that the meeting will be closed. And so persons who are not who are not delegates or who are not on that committee would not be permitted to hear the discussion. So if there's some sensitive matters and they don't want certain people to be in it, this is a way that you might actually have that to happen. Point of order. So it's becoming, obvious in the meeting that people are, again, not following the rules. And this is something you can do without recognition. You can say, I raise a point of order, or just, call out point of order. So this is, again, if, let's say, you notice that someone is making too many points through the discussion or the debate, and they're not allowing people to speak. So you can yell out point of order, or if you feel people are talking over one another and not allowing the chair they're not being recognized from the chair, that is another reason that you might yell out point of order. And another thing is point of information. So let's say you're wondering some of the facts under discussion, such as like a balance in the treasury, or you're trying to get an exact fact or information when someone is being discussed. So again, without recognition, you can say point of information. And this can, give you clarification about something that is being discussed, and the person who understands this information can give that information. And let's just say that, throughout the meeting, everybody's getting a little tired. They just need a break. They just need, just a little 10 minutes. So someone can, after recognition, ask that the chair would allow you guys to recess for a few minutes. So maybe there is a time where, there needs to be discussion had, maybe for a committee or something that, where if there was a break, it would go really good right there. So then you would just, again, get recognized and ask for a recess. And a recess is a break. That is not total leaving the time. For you to actually disband and for the meeting to end, you would actually want adjournment. And that is, of course, after recognition, that you would ask that the meeting be adjourned, the meeting end for that time. Another thing is point of parliamentary inquiry. And so let's say, because it could happen, we're in the meeting, people are throwing out parliamentary procedures to basically make sure that their points are getting across, and people are confused, like, okay, is that really parliamentary procedure? I'm confused. I've never heard of that. So if you're confused about some of the rules that people are saying, well, the reason that you can't do this is because parliamentary procedure states this, then you can, without recognition, say point of parliamentary inquiry, because you want to make sure that, people are not just throwing out rules that are not necessarily germane to the business session, but are not creating their own, are not confusing old rules and new rules, because at the end of the day, we try to use the most up-to-date Robert's Rules of Order for any session that we're in. And then last, the appeal from the appeal from the decision of the chair. And you can do this without recognition as well. Let's say I appeal from the decision of the chair. So that was probably a lot for today, but we definitely wanted to give you a basic understanding of some of the rules and some of the things that you just might see, not only at General Conference, but in any business session. And so, of course, right here, we have a couple of cheat sheets, and this just breaks down things simply so that you can just look at it, while you're in the meeting, and just know, okay, what did she say when she said this? Or I don't remember this. These are some of the rules. And this is another cheat sheet that you can look at, just to know, like, okay, adjourn. So to adjourn, you might say, I move that we adjourn, or I motion that we adjourn. And it says, do you have to interrupt the speaker? No. Is there a second needed? Yes. Is it debatable? No. Is it amendable? No. Are votes needed? The majority is needed. So quickly, that cheat sheet just gives you all the information that we just went through, but it's a way for you to have it on site and be looking at it. And so again, thank you for allowing me to do this presentation today. I hope that you guys were able to pick up some things, and we'll definitely send out some cheat sheets and make sure that you are comfortable with what's going to happen at General Conference, because we're, so excited. And even beyond General Conference, these are some basic Robert's Rules of Order that you can take into any business meeting and any business session. And again, my name is Martinique Mix, and thank you.